Hello, everyone. Welcome to a very special episode of the cEDH cast. Today is me, Braden, with a very special guest, Ernesto of the 99, also known as Plasma Beam. Hello, Ernesto.
Hello, Brayden. How you doing? All good?
Good, good. We just got done playing a game. You're about to see that game played out in front of you. Make sure to hit the play button right now. And so this was a game where Ernesto was playing Joyra, Sage was playing Blue Farm, Alex was playing Blue Farm, and I was on Korvold Faux Farm. So we're going to be showing off Korvold Faux Farm. We're going to be talking about some of the decisions we made through the game and some of the things we noticed as we played. I'm just going to start out real quick. I actually kept a 5, which was pretty sad. I ended up bottoming the Worldly Tutor and something else, and so my final 5 was the Wheel of Fortune, the Nurturing Peatland, the Forest, the Vampire Tutor, and the Lion's Eye Diamond. Basically, the goal here was to try to tutor out some mana so I could play the LED and the wheel on the same turn. What was your plan for your hand?
So my initial plan for my hand, I had 2 mulligan, 2/6. The first 2 hands had no lands, so obviously that's an instant mulligan. I should probably play more of a greedier in retrospect when we were talking about after the game, but I mostly kept it because it has either Spellbomb, which is hard to interact on summon, and a Braid, which might destroy something that's relevant to my game plan. Since my hand was kind of slow, I said okay, maybe I can chill and just make my land drops a bit, keep on the Aether Storm, the Spellbomb interaction, and then try to play Jora and try to do something with Mox Opal. I did not play it early because I was saving for Jora. In retrospect, as we were discussing with Braden afterwards, I need to play more greedy. If I can't keep up in speed with these decks, if I'm playing like a slower deck, like this slower style, because the deck can go fast. It's just that
you have to keep the hands that do that.
Yes.
Yeah.
You need to mulligan too much to actually be effective with this deck.
Yeah. I actually notably drew the Demonic Tutor off the top, which allowed me to, Vampire Tutor up some mana, play the Demonic Tutor, crack the LED in response to the Demonic Tutor, which is pretty powerful. It would have been better if the Wheel of Fortune was in my hand, but I ended up thinking of something a little bit better to get. We see from the 2 Blue Farm decks, they actually had really slow starts.
I'm actually surprised they kept those hands.
Yeah.
How slow they are.
I think Sage is pretty new to the deck, and Alex mulliganed. I think he mulliganed a little aggressively.
But, I didn't check if Sage had the Imperial Seal from the start, because if they have it, they need to cast it turn 1 for, I don't know, Mana Vault, Mana Crypt, something to go fast.
Dockside. Yeah, I think. I think Sage had the Imperial Seal at least this turn. I think tutoring up a Dockside. Dude, that Peer to the Abyss is looking for something,
Yeah,
it's
you
looking
need
for
to cast it.
Yeah,
you need to cast it.
The earlier you cast it, the better too. Alex actually has a Force of Will, but it, that Force of Will isn't going to be there forever.
Exactly.
Yeah. So here I'm tutoring off Vampire Tutor, and I actually just think I'm trying to think. I need to fix my mana, and I need mana acceleration. I look at the decks around me. There's a blue-red deck, and there's Blue Farm. I am thinking hey, it's pretty likely I'm going to be able to get mana off a Carpet of Flowers. So I end up actually getting a Carpet of Flowers here, which allows
that's
me,
what you went for.
Yeah. Which ends up allowing me to be able to play a pretty sick sequence where I, play the Carpet, go to my second main phase, make some mana, play my Demonic Tutor. I can actually fast forward a bit here. So as you see, I'm able to Demonic Tutor, crack my hand, get Necro. But what happens is that we end up seeing a Force of Will on the Necro, which is pretty sad. You end up not really doing a lot on your turn, sadly.
No, again, I was keeping up a Braid and Spellbomb up, but I should have played everything so I could keep the Spellbomb also up with the Mox Opal. That was on me. I didn't see that. I didn't see the line. It will allow me to do a turn 3 Joyra with Retract, so I could recast everything again.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a pretty big thing to miss. Sage here, like, drew some more acceleration. Looks like they're about to. They just fetched. Here, I'd probably be playing the Tibna or the Imperial Seal, depending on if I'm trying to be grindy or if I'm trying to be
Well, the Imperial
aggressive.
Seal should have been cast last turn.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, if that Imperial Seal would have made 3 mana plus the Rite of Flame, we're getting pretty close to being able to cast a Peer into the Abyss. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Is that enough? I'm not sure. Yeah, I think if things had been sequenced a little bit better. Oh, the Rite of Flame wouldn't have been there if the Imperial Seal, so
Yeah.
it wouldn't have been good enough. Not quite. Although if you had sequenced what I think is correctly, the Dockside probably would have made enough mana. This game would have gone pretty differently.
I'm not sure about that, because if you do Dockside, you only get 3 treasures in this turn.
If you had played the Mox Opal and the Walking Ballista, though.
If I played as I should have, then yes.
Yeah. It would have at least a turn 2 Crom.
That's true.
So, Imp Seal for Ad Nauseam. Did Sage put it in their hand? Yes.
Yeah, I think they did.
Oops.
That happens.
I don't think any of us noticed that. What's that?
Happens to the best of us.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't even notice that. That's funny. We'll have to
This is
tell
the spicy
Sage.
turn when Alex goes finish
yes.
futuristic, and we all cringe.
Yeah, I'm feeling pretty hopeless here. Because it's like whatever I draw off the top can't possibly get through all of this, right? Like, there's 2 blue players with double blue open. There's a player with Rhystic Study and Mystic Arbora. I'm feeling pretty hopeless,
Yeah, Alex only needs to untap with this and protect it, and he should win the game with this.
And then I top deck Eogma's Will, and that was enough to get me out of the hole, I wasn't able to make 2 mana off of it, off the carpet, because you hadn't cracked your fetch yet. But this was a pretty big deal for me, because I was able to get my Necro out by cracking my LED from the graveyard, because I already had no cards in hand. So yeah, it was a pretty perfect top deck. I mean, it's really exactly what I needed in that moment.
That was pretty huge.
Yeah, I agree.
I also waited on what you were saying. I waited until your next step, because I wanted to restrict your mana. The same thing, like the Carpet of Flowers.
Yeah. I'm not sure there's more I could have really done. Maybe I could have Demonic Tutored for like a Dockside or something, because I did have Demonic Tutor in my graveyard. But it ended up being...
I think that's good play. It's a good play.
Yeah. I do think, though, that it ended up being valuable that my Demonic Tutor was in my graveyard later on in the game when I went for some Breach stuff. So, sometimes even if it's not exactly what you wanted, it still works out,
Yeah, but again, making your Necro when you have your Hellbent, I mean, that's pretty good.
Oh, yeah, for sure. You'll see I just Necroed for 15, I believe.
Yes.
This is a pretty insane Necro. It's just like absurd, really, when you think about it.
It kept you in the game.
What?
It kept you in the game.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, it one of the really powerful things actually about Korvold I found is like the ability to like sack your Necro, and so this because you don't want to get like locked out by it. Because your draw step is actually pretty useful. So this hand was enough to get me a Necro, get me a Dock, was enough to get me a Korvold, then get me a Dockside, and that was enough, And then I was able to keep some really affordable interaction in mana, like the fact that Simian Spirit Guide and Elvish Spirit Guide didn't draw Alex a card when I used them was super, super important later on in this game. So
True.
I was pretty happy with this one.
In my case, I was kind of waiting again. I just wasn't doing much because I was playing a slower and didn't draw like as much as I wanted, and was waiting for that. Yeah. Also, I kind of didn't want at this point this kind of snowball effect, because if I played a Mox Opal or anything else, or a Braid or anything, I would just be feeding Alex, and that would probably bite me in the butt when he was going to untap with basically fish and study
Yeah.
and try to go off. So it was a doomed if you do, doomed if you don't style of
Yeah,
thing.
you were punished pretty hard here by
Yeah.
not playing your stuff earlier, you know? Like, the fact that you didn't play your Opal earlier, the fact that you didn't play your Walking Ballista earlier, like, because there hasn't been a dockside, it means that you weren't punished for not playing them. And because there is a Rhystic Study and a Mystic Gamora in play, now you're really punished for not playing them.
Oh yeah.
That's the crazy thing about the format, kind of, in a way right now, is that there's like a lot of like weird mana punishment things where like you're punished for playing rocks, but you're also like two of the best card advantage engines in the format also punish you for not playing your rocks. So like there really isn't always a right option. It really depends on like how your opponents are playing. And in this case, double blue farm and Korvold makes Dockside extremely likely. So
Yes.
there's really no like there's no winning answer here.
No, that was a poor deck decision on my part because I wanted to keep testing it, but in this spot, it was just asking for trouble.
It's
There
like
was no
giving
way-
your opponent a ritual every game. It's like
or worse,
Yeah.
or worse. Probably like a Black Lotus or even more.
yeah, the
It's
Force of
insane.
Negation here is a great draw actually.
It saved us
Yeah.
at one point, right?
Although
Yeah.
it kind of was cheating because that Force of Negation wasn't supposed to be there.
The Adnos.
Yeah, the Adnos is supposed to be on top.
Wait, what's the Adnos? Oh, yes, there's a. I'm blind.
Although to be fair, Sage probably wasn't supposed to tutor up Adnos with Peer into the Abyss already being there, you know.
No, you need only mana and to save your interaction for when you cast Beer.
Yeah.
It's just a safer play. Here we go with Alex's turn, just untapping, paying for the fish.
Wow. Did he just naturally drew that Dockside? That's crazy.
Yeah, that's insane.
Wow.
Here I will just say DT go.
What'd you say?
I will probably, in his case, I will probably do lots of Vampiric. Not even that. I will just make my land drop, go.
Yeah, that's fair. I think being able to hold up instant speed ad nauseum is pretty insane, to be honest.
Yep.
Um,
And even then, you have the Rhystic and the fish. If they interact with you, you don't really care because you can just keep refilling your hand.
yeah, for sure.
It's actually one of the modes of Remora I don't see played as much. Is kind of used like a silence
Looks
before
like
you try
that's
to
what
go
he-
off.
It looks like that's what he did. He did just kind of like land go. That's interesting.
He didn't play the Polluted Delta, I don't know.
He played the command tower, I believe.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay, I missed that then.
So it comes back around to my turn. I'm sitting with this Necro play, and I'm thinking like, am I really gonna get away with this?
I mean, that's an insane hand you have right now.
Yeah, I agree.
Reign of Filth, Anyway Dead. Oof.
Yeah,
This
there's
is what-
I'm
this is
fast
what you
forwarding
guys
here,
want,
but there was quite a conversation about the stock side. I mean, it's on fast forward right now, and nothing happened for quite a bit. Looks like Alex decides to pop off the Vampire Tutor.
I don't know what. Oh, because he was doing something in response to the fish trigger.
No, he had already resolved the Rhystic trigger,
He
but
drew a monkey.
yes, but I think he is thinking, oh, he's not going to just cast a spell this turn, and he's correct. You know, there's about to be a Korvold coming down. It is
But
pretty.
still, I'll probably wait
He
a
puts.
bit on
It
the
looks like
Vampiric.
he puts ad nauseum on top. That's pretty powerful. I like that here. He's one mana away. He's just a single ritual away from being able to just instant speed ad naus.
Actually, now that I think about it, why would you play the command tower when you have a brainstorm and a fetch land?
I think because he wants to keep me off carpet mana.
Still, you don't crack the fetch.
I know. I just think that I might bait it.
Right.
By playing interaction that requires a dig. All right, now here's really interesting because I had all the Simian Spirit Guide mana. I was able to play Korvold and keep up some of my fetches, some of my treasures, which ended up being really important. And I was so afraid of counter magic. Like I knew that I just played 2 creature spells, and I was so afraid of counter magic that I thought that it was extremely unlikely that I'd get to. Oops, I accidentally flipped that off of my Necro, but it ends up being that I feel like it is so unlikely that I'm going to be able to actually resolve this animate dead that I actually sack the Necro instead after activating it 5 times, which is kind of interesting. It's definitely a slow, more conservative play, but I think it ended up paying off.
You probably should have cracked the treasures before in response to the Korvold trigger and see what you drew and then plan ahead on that. But I
Yeah,
don't
there's
know.
also the
I don't know if you
possibility
do. What
that
would you done?
I think there's the possibility that I just want to pull. I would just kind of want to wait, I have this Reign of Filth. Like, I can definitely see more cards, but I think I just want to see what these 5 cards off Necropotence are.
Yeah, the problem with Reign of Filth is if you try to go off and your draws are land, 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 you just basically are out of the game
Yeah.
in a sense.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why I was playing a little bit conservatively here. Now, one thing I'll say is I considered the fact that if I Necroed into a Final Fortune, maybe I'm supposed to keep up my 2 treasures
True.
to play the Final Fortune. But I ended up thinking, you know what? I think I want to like play out some of my interaction, And I ended up drawing the Nature's Claim, which was like really important. I felt so I popped that off.
And this is where you target the heuristic study. Yeah.
Yep. Which draws him into the ad nauseum. Actually gains him 4 life, which kind of sucks. But now there's yeah, and my deck's mostly a creature deck, so I actually don't care too much. Like, of the 2, I actually care mostly about heuristic study. It's affecting me the least of all the players at the table. Even though I'm drawing him tons of cards off of it, in my mind I'm thinking like, hey, I'm trying to like storm off with creatures, and kind of put out my board. So that was my thought.
So
I also
in this
thought
case,
if he had ad nauseum in hand, he would not be able to pay 2 for the Mystic Remora, unless he had more rituals, which he of course ended up having.
it's blue fun. You should assume that they have a ritual or 2 after they draw.
Yeah, I just felt like it was more likely the Mystic Remora wasn't going to stick around than the heuristic study.
Fair. And in this board state, what was your thoughts for next turn? Swing with Korvold, Sack Dockside, and Animate Dead?
Yep, and Dance of the Dead. So I was actually able to. I had 3 reanimation spells in my hand, and so I just had to hit ways of sacking Dockside at this point. And the deck runs many, many ways of doing that. It runs Diabolic Intent, Infernal Plunge, Culling the Weak, Eldritch Evolution, so many ways. And then I can always just tutor for ways to sack them. Because, like, for example, if I tutor up a Diabolic Intent, and then I Diabolic Intent my Dockside, and then recast my Dockside, I can then tutor up like an Underworld Breach, and then I'm like most of the way there to assembling a Breach combo, because like a lot of Breach combos are just kind of require like, making tons of mana, then kind of filtering that mana into tutors, and then tutoring up cards that are card neutral, like a Wheel of Fortune or Stitcher Supplier. So I was just trying to set that up, and this Witchclaw Talisman actually set it up, helps me set it up perfectly, because it also enables my Temur Sabertooth lines.
You don't run any recursive stack outlet, right?
Like Culling the Weak?
For example, style like Carrion Feeder or stuff like that.
Oh, no.
That says sack a creature.
No.
Okay.
But I do run Culling the Weak, which is like basically the same thing.
Yeah, it becomes a super big ritual, especially quadruple black if you want to announce. Are you on Pier?
Yes.
Okay. Well, even more. You can just sack a Dockside, make Pier, and just go off with that. That's crazy. Ring of Field is probably one of the most underrated cards around. If you're not into the Tier 0 super spicy meta of cEDH, Ring of Field is kind of like underrated. I feel.
Yeah. Here is a very controversial play. So Sage goes to Gilded Drake my Korvold, and I say, hey, I have a Deflecting Swat. I don't want to fight over this because we're just going to lose to the Mystic Remora. And they're like, yeah, but I want a Korvold. I'm like, well, you already played your land for turn. you're not even going to get a land, like an actual trigger off of the Korvold. You're just going to be stopping me from generating value while there's an Alex over here with 11 cards in hand. I'm going to counter it, and then you're going to counter my counter. So Alex is up to 13 cards, and we're out of interaction next turn. So how about we don't do this? And eventually, the table had come together and decided that was probably not a good idea, and we did not get the Drake.
It was kind of a weird moment in the game. Probably, I would say one of the pivotal moments in the game, because if Sage didn't actually go through, they still had Force on Negation, which, as we see in Alex's hand, he tried to go off this turn without Nos, and that Force of Will itself would have stopped Alex. But obviously, we cannot know at that point because he had 11 cards in his hand. It's impossible.
Mm-hmm.
It still probably would have been the play to make because they have Chain of Vapor in hand and they can suck lands to probably try to, I don't know, draw one or two cards with Korvold. It's just that you also have your engine is set up with Korvold, Dockside, Carpet of Flowers, and you will need to be stopped because, again, it's such an easy engine for you to just play Korvold.
Yeah.
And in this case, it forces you to do something.
Yeah.
It was kind of, in a sense, making Kingmaker here.
Yeah.
Because if you don't cast the Gilded Drake and don't force you to have the SWAT, then you have SWAT in your turn when you try to go off.
Yeah, although I think Alex playing so aggressively, we knew Alex was about to go off, and so it was it wasn't quite that. And I had Necroed for quite a bit, but I really had only drawn 5 cards off the Necro. Like it was possible, I just didn't have it, although very unlikely. But we knew Alex had it. He'd already tutored up. He already had a Mystic Remora. He had 13 cards in hand. He would have had 13 cards in hand. Like that's just too much to just give it,
Would you have cast this Dockside in Alex's turn? Knowing that one person has a Lotus Petal that they can correct in response, and the other has a Sensei Stop, they say, like, okay, I'm going to draw in response, which is what happened.
It's still mana neutral.
Yes,
it does put us behind a bit,
I would probably waited a bit on it.
Yeah, Alex makes a mistake of only making one treasure, but it gets fixed pretty quickly. Just fast forwarding a bit.
Yeah, probably in this turn would have been play Green Monoliths ago.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the ad nauseam is pretty reasonable here, to be honest. I think it's fine. I think holding it up probably would have been maybe a little bit better, but to be honest, like we knew he had it because he Vampire tutored.
Yeah, but still, you have Tainted Pact. You can just get in more interaction than just a misstep.
Yeah, Sage tries to go off with Ad Nauseam in response to Ad Nauseam, but finds out that Rite of Flame is a sorcery and is forced to just end up actually forcing negationing in response and actually paying for the Remora. Now there's a Tainted Pact, which is digging for a Dispel, and I end up being able to Deflecting Swat it, and so it ends up not really mattering. I'd say at this point, I felt pretty confident that unless you were holding up just like a sick interaction suite that you were kind of holding up against Alex because you didn't want to like overinvest, you just wanted to win on your own turn. I felt like I had a pretty good chance of winning, especially with the Final Fortune in my hand. And then once I drew the, Veil of Summer during the last turn, I was starting to like really feel some confidence,
You were tapped out after Alex's turn, right?
I had one red floating. I had a Lotus Petal.
Oh, you had Lotus Petal. Okay, because if you see, Alex drew miscast on this.
Ah, okay.
So if he didn't cast the Dockside, if he just did Green Monolith into Adnos, there's a very high chance he would have won because of that.
The Dockside was mana neutral. It didn't matter.
No, but the Green Monolith... Oh, yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
Oh, then he will still be 1 mana off. Right.
Yeah. All right, and you say something silly, which is like, oh, you're like, I'm going to abrade the Dockside, and I'm like, after you attack. And I was like, okay, I don't care. I have 3 reanimation spells in my hand.
I did not know your hand.
Yeah, I was like, it doesn't matter to me how you sequence this. The earlier you kill it, the more it helps me. You know?
Also, the Final Fortune in your hand is the deal breaker.
Yeah.
Because even if I say do anything to
A silence,
slow it
you know,
down,
like even a silence, I can just like respond to the silence, Final Fortune, go to my next turn and win. You know, or even a Yawgmoth's Will. Like if I resolve a Yawgmoth's Will and it's like, oh, I can't do breach loops now. I just take another turn.
and it's funny that Sage tapped out to pay the 4 mana and pitched the Capital Flowers because that Capital Flowers would have saved us.
Yeah, I pitched the Chain of Vapor. You mean?
Yeah.
Although to be fair, the miscast I think would have been drawn a turn earlier. I'm not sure how that would have worked out, but yeah,
No,
you're probably
because
right. You're probably
He
right.
think that back. Alex think that back, and there was a back rate and something else involved.
Yeah. So you bounced my Korvold to my hand, and I was like, oh, that sucks.
Yeah, I didn't know you had Final Fortune.
Yeah, so I replayed Korvold, and I'm like, oh, what am I gonna do here? You abrade the dockside, I think.
Yeah.
So what this
So
actually
it-
does is it is kind of cute because it denies me 1 draw. Because what Korvold does is you sack the Dance of the Dead, which sacks 2 permanents, because then you have to sack the dockside. So you actually do prevent me from drawing a card here. It is sort of relevant, but I just end up sacking a Deathrite Shaman instead, or
Yeah,
something
but
else.
again, the issue is that there's a Final Fortune, and that way lets you untap with Corporal again, and with the
Yeah.
reanimation spells that you had in your hand, just go off again.
Yeah, for
It
sure.
didn't really matter because if there was no Final Fortune, then it would have been a silence that would just finish your turn there.
Yeah.
But it wasn't meant to be.
Yeah, although I just had to have a tutor forfeit at Final Fortune actually. Like the card is just really strong in the deck. It allows you to really like cheat sometimes. It feels like cheating at least, you know.
It kind of is.
Yeah. Although I will say you sacking your top and the Aether Spellbomb was like really powerful against me. It did make my docksides like way less powerful. But 3 artifacts and enchantments was still enough to like start storming off, you know.
Yeah. You don't need much more.
Especially when they start drawing. Wait, the fact that in Korvold they cantrip is like kind of insane, you know.
It's one of the reasons the Dockside is really strong. And again, Dockside just by existing punishes Joera by default because she wants
To
artifacts and
have a
board to
board.
bounce. And
Yeah.
do
It
stuff.
makes you have to win the turn you start storming off, really.
It's one of the reasons why I kept them in their hand. Like you can see, there's a Ballista and also a Mox Opal. And my plan was for next turn, slam Cavern of Souls, play Joyra, and then try to at least draw 4 or 5 cards with Retract and everything. And the top that wasn't top. At least that was my plan, but I never managed to actually untap.
Yeah, so here's me casting the Final Fortune. Final Fortune's like super powerful. It's basically Time Walk. Isn't it crazy that your Jund deck gets to play Time Walk? Is that crazy?
It's pretty crazy.
It is pretty insane, I think.
It's also funny that not the Chain of Vapor because you had Bale. But
Yeah,
yeah, it's too many things. You drew too many cards with
yeah,
Korvold,
for sure.
It's what he does.
Yeah. Now here's the Wish Claw. This is like really the killing blow because now I can. So the cool thing about Wish Claw in this deck is that you can use it to give your opponents artifacts and enchantments, and that is pretty disgusting with Dockside.
Yeah.
Sage makes the F6 tokens, so I know that I'm basically home free. I'll fast forward a bit. So this is just some like sequencing. Alex ends up awkwardly mental misstepping the Orcish Lumberjack, which did not really make a lot of sense. We were kind of like, okay. Ends up, I'm able to Nature's Claim the Mystic Remora on my turn, and that kind of handles that. So,
to be fair, there wasn't much interaction he had. What would we have? He would
Pact
have
Negation.
a Pact Negation and Force Will.
Yeah. So
because
here,
the Force Will we saw was Sages.
Here
right?
I sack my dockside by using Korvold. I replay the dockside using the Underworld Breach. And here I start storming off, and I'm starting to assemble the combo. I demonic tutor from my graveyard, as I mentioned earlier. I'm kind of happy I wasn't able to cast the demonic tutor because it was able to.
You even drew the cat.
I did draw the cat, but I didn't think that was worth showing off. I wanted to do the breach line. Um,
Oh, come on.
the breach
Come
line's
on.
way cuter. Also, you only have 1, 2, 3 artifacts and enchantments right now because
Yeah, you need more.
actually, if
You
I
need,
went
like,
for the cat line, it would have failed because Alex actually has the wish claw in hand. That's really funny. Although I could have stolen sages, so it's not a big deal. Uh, if they're on copy artifact, I could steal the wish claw, then steal a copy artifact, make a wish claw. So I could have done that, but easier line was, as you're about to see, I got a Culling the Week and a Stitcher Supplier. I finally was able to get the Stitcher Supplier, play the Stitcher Supplier, represent the Culling the Week combo with Stitcher Supplier and Underworld Breach, and that was enough to call it a game. Showed it off like just a little bit how it works, but basically the way it works is you have a Stitcher Supplier, you can sack it to Culling the Week to make 4 mana, and then you mill yourself for 3, replay it, make mill yourself for 3, you lose 1 mana, and each time you go up 2 mana, so you actually are able to make tons of black mana, and with the Praetor's Grasp, you're able to pretty simply end the game. We run some rocks that filter mana if we have to, but really we just use Dockside. I had the 2 blue right here, and that's how I won. So,
Was there an argument to playing Veil of Summer as a silence at the beginning of your turn?
no, I prefer to use it as an interactive spell.
Okay, because you can use it both ways, and both ways are acceptable.
I think if they have a counterspell, I absolutely don't, and I think it was possible they had a counterspell.
Yeah, there was at least a mental misstep.
Yeah,
That's fine.
so I didn't. Yeah, it would have been mental misstep, and then it actually would have been open to interaction from Alex, like a pact negation.
So, takeaways from this game: top decking Yoln's Will is pretty good.
Yeah, although to be fair, I think I did mold a 5. You know, like
You didn't really have 5, but again, if you didn't draw Will, if you drew a land or I don't know a dork, you would not be able to cast Necro.
sure,
and
sure. And if
you
Alex didn't have a
would-
Forcible in his hand, I would have just had a Necro a turn earlier. So you know, it's
True.
it's a lot of stuff.
It's
like
the
that.
balance. It's the balance of cEDH.
Yeah. He top decked the Forcible we saw, so it's just as likely he'd have that Forcible as I'd have the Necropotence, or sorry, have
Yep.
the Yawas will. So it happens. The reason we play so many cards that are broken is so we can do broken things, you know.
Exactly. Yes.
So, all right.
Also, another takeaway from this is we need to play greedier because it's easier to make them have it than just wait until you have something extra.
I totally agree. I think that people honestly are playing a little bit too conservatively a lot of the time with their mulligans and with a lot of their decisions. You know.
Like in my case,
Yeah,
I kept
exactly.
the Sopal and the Ballista, which I should have played.
Yeah, exactly. All right. I'm gonna call that a game. So thank you for joining me, Ernesto.
You're
Are you
welcome.
still Twitch streaming?
Every once in a while, not Magic. I sometimes do something else.
Sure. What's your Twitch?
It's Twitch TV/PlasmaBeam UY. It's
Sweet.
UY because of Uruguay, my home country.
Oh, cool. All right. You can find us at the cEDH Cast on YouTube. You can also find Ernesto at the 99 on YouTube. They just released a video today, actually, that was really cool. It showed a lot of farm decks, so I was a big fan of it.
Good stack
Additionally,
correction.
yeah, there was multiple ad nauseums on the stack at the same time. From players who weren't even playing black. So that was pretty neat. Just some additional info, you can check out our TCG Player affiliate link in the description if you're interested in picking up any of the cards you saw in this video. I know it was on Cockatrice, but eventually we'll be able to play in paper too, so that'll be fun. Yeah, thanks for playing, listening, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Have a nice day. Bye.
Have a good one. Bye bye.